Hey guys, what's up? I'm back again for another review here. This time it is Starfield, arguably the biggest game for the Xbox Series X this year. Now, I am going to give a fair warning. I'm going to spoil the story for the game just because it's important I do to help kind of get my point across about how I really feel about the game. So, if you have not finished the story or if you care about that kind of stuff, I would recommend you don't bother checking out this video until you've actually completed it. Starfield is definitely one of the most hyped games on a lot of people's lists this year. It was certainly on one of the top of the list for me as well. Probably number 2 or 3, just behind Spider Man 2, which comes out next month in October. So let's get into it. What is Starfield? It's an open world RPG. The story is pretty simple, although I'm also not a huge fan of it. The game starts off, and you are a miner on some planet, and you touch this magical piece of metal that gives you these weird visions of the galaxy. Afterwards, you're recruited to this group called Constellation, which is just a bunch of people who want to discover these artifacts and learn more about them. You can really break down the entire main quest line into one giant MacGuffin mission. You show up to the New Atlantis headquarters for Constellation. You get told by Sarah or one of the other group members of Constellation, hey, this is where one of the artifacts are located. You go to the place, you pick up the artifact, you drop it back off at the Constellation home base, rinse and repeat until you basically get to the end of the story. I really burned through a lot of hours on side missions and side quests because those were more enjoyable and more interesting than the story. Before I started recording this video, I actually opened up my save file for the game and discovered that I have put in 65 hours into Starfield since it came out. I did get the early release premium edition, so I played it an extra week earlier than other people probably have. So it's safe to say that I definitely have more than enough information to give my verdict on how the game is. Okay, so back to the story there because I want to get back on track here. Basically, you get introduced to these characters known as the Starborn, and it gets revealed that these people are interplanetary, interdimensional beings that use the artifacts to enter something called the Unity, which then allows them to travel into different dimensions. So it's literally a multiverse. Once you complete the story and you do get all the artifacts, it basically opens up New Game Plus. The whole multiverse angle feels like really lazy writing to just justify the New Game Plus in the game. Oh, we can, freshly start from the beginning and then you can try different things. You can continue on with your character and continue leveling them up. You do lose all of your progress. You lose all your ships. You lose all your outfits. You lose all your weaponry. And the game then gives you an option to either skip the main quest or restart the main quest entirely. Basically, when you go back to the lodge, you meet this new dimension's members of Constellation, and you can either reveal to them that, hey, I'm a Starborn, I can go through different dimensions, or you can be completely dumb and pretend that you're totally ignorant of what's going on and start the story from the beginning all over again, go through the same story beats. When I started up my New Game Plus, I decided to just tell them that I was Starborn because the main story was so uninteresting and so uninspiring and so unenjoyable to play that I did not want to go back and repeat those missions again. Another complaint that I would have regarding the characters, all of the characters that are in Constellation, they're like goody two shoes. So this is obviously a role playing game. So if you want, you can be a space pirate and rob people and kill people with impunity. But if you have either Sarah or Barrett as your companion, they'll flip out on you for killing someone. And I think even Andreja, she does the same thing as well. So the story isn't great, which is a knock on the game. It's not going to probably keep you very interested. And right when you think it is getting good, it basically ends at a breakneck pace. So let's move on to the most important aspect then, which is the gameplay. This is where things may get interesting as well, depending on your perspective on Bethesda games and how the last Fallout was, especially Fallout 4. Starfield is, simply put, Fallout 4 in space. That sentence right there may have given you the verdict on this game in your own opinion. If you loved Fallout 4, you're going to find enjoyment in this game. If you're someone who despised Fallout 4 and thought it was a low point for Bethesda, I think you're going to hate Starfield. You've got the same old concepts of every other Bethesda game. You've got the skill tree, which is a bit different in Starfield. So let's just get that out of the way first. How it works: you've got different trees. You've got a tech tree, you've got a social tree, you got a physical tree, you got a science tree, and then a combat tree. Every time that you level up, you get a skill point, which then you can use to unlock a new ability in one of the trees. And then if you want to increase the strength of that perk, because each perk has 4 different levels, you have to complete challenges associated with that skill. If you want to increase the damage for your pistols, you need to get X amount of pistol kills. If you want to increase your strength, you need to walk X amount of steps while over encumbered, or you need to use X amount of health packs by pistol and just, taking them all out. It is fun because look, at the end of the day, it's still a first person RPG with a lot of action. You're going to be killing a lot of guys in this game. A slight drawback to all of this, though, is some of these skill trees, in order to unlock the next tier in the skill tree, you need to spend a certain amount of points in the previous skill trees column, which can be a problem if you're looking at a skill point that is in one of the other columns that you want to get to, but then you're going to have to sacrifice skill points in that tree in order to unlock them in the future. So, for example, I wanted to get the gun modification perk, but then I had to burn more skill points in that specific tree in order to unlock it. And it took me forever to do that. I actually didn't get into the ability to modify my weapons until I was over 30 hours already into the game. Another thing I'm disappointed in with this game is how the traversal with your spacecraft was sold to us by Bethesda. They made it seem like you were going to be able to freely travel the stars with your spaceship, but it really just breaks down to a giant fast travel system. That's all it is. It's a glorified fast travel system that is slightly more advanced than Mass Effect's. You'll basically open up the map, you will click on the mission marker, you'll hold down the X button to fast travel, you will then appear in a little miniature mapped out area outside of the planet that you can sort of move your spaceship around. But then if you want to land on the planet, you have to open up your map again and then select the area of the planet you want to land in. I barely put in any skill points into any of my spacecraft stuff because of how, frankly, useless it felt to do. I only basically regretted this at the very, very end of the story, where you have to fight the Starborn in your ship briefly, and they have these really overpowered ships, and I was getting the fucking shit kicked out of me. And I got so frustrated, I just said, fuck it, and I put the overall difficulty down to very easy, got through it, and the amount of times you do any of the dogfighting anyway is super rare. The UI absolutely sucks too. You're going to spend a lot of time in different types of menus. If you want to fast travel, menu. If you want to upgrade your character, menu. When you want to go to a mission, menu. When you want to change your outfits, menu. If you want to look at your new weapons, open up the menu. It feels like something that should be that simple shouldn't be so complicated. and shouldn't feel so cumbersome. Yet they somehow pulled it off. Bethesda also really bragged about how there was 1,000 planets that you could visit, and I always thought that this was going to be bullshit. I know I'm not the only one who probably thought this, and I was right. It is complete bullshit. The planets are all procedurally generated. So you're going to land on a planet, and first couple of times, you're going to be impressed. But after a dozen or so planets, you're going to start noticing a lot of copy and pasted assets. You're going to land, and hey, look, it's another rocky planet. And oh, look, now I'm in the more forested planet. And now I'm in another cold planet. And now I'm on another desert planet that's really hot. Look, it's the exact same fauna I have to scan half a dozen times in order to log it in my surveying kit. Oh, look, it's the same animal, it's the same plant over and over and over again. And that scanning mechanic is horrible. I hate it because it feels like unnecessary busy work, especially since it's so repetitive after a while. You do get XP, but you're eventually just going to not even want to bother because it sucks to do. Even visiting the planets gets very uninteresting because they're all barren wastelands. And I understand this is space, and I understand that, yes, logically speaking, space is going to be a barren wasteland. And if you do land on these planets, you're not going to see a lot. But there's not anything fun about walking 1,000+ meters across the whole map, trying to find resources to scan and trying to find the same resources to mine that you've mined on a dozen other planets already. And then you look and you see, oh, look, it's this abandoned mine. And you go into the abandoned mine, and oh, look, it's the exact same inside of the last half a dozen abandoned mines you've already been in, beat for beat, like literally everything. Like you could blindfold yourself and you might be able to still complete the map. I wanted to role play as a bounty hunter for my first playthrough. So I would look up whatever different bounty hunting missions were available through the various mission boards that you can find in the different cities in the game. I would go to the mission marker. It would say, hunt down the pirate reaver in this abandoned mine. Hunt down this reaver in the dilapidated research station. And you'd go inside those stations, and it would be the exact same map that you killed the last half dozen pirate reavers in. Everything was there perfectly. And when you start noticing those things, the game starts to lose its luster, and you actually start to feel discouraged in continuing these side missions because of how blatantly repetitive they become. Having 1,000 planets is not impressive when it's the same 24 planets recycled over and over and over again. 24 might even be being generous on my end of things, honestly. Visually, the game is a lot better than it was for Fallout 4. Even the character models look a lot better. However, Bethesda still can't seem to be able to show any type of facial animations on their characters. So they all continue to have this dead-eyed, mannequin-like expression when they're talking to you. Now, I know it sounds like I've been quite negative on Starfield for these past couple of minutes, but I'm just trying to give my honest thoughts on the game overall after spending, like I said, 65 hours in this world. But the game doesn't break any new ground. It's like I said, it's Fallout 4 in space. You're going to do the exact same things it did in Fallout 4. And it feels like Bethesda just decided to go with quantity over quality. I'm starting to get the sense that the average modern day gamer just wants games with a lot of content in them. You saw it with Diablo 4, you've seen it with Baldur's Gate, you saw it with Final Fantasy. Maybe this is just Bethesda bending the knee to whatever the market's currently demanding. And maybe I shouldn't be upset with the modern day gamer for wanting this stuff. After all, here in Canada, with inflation and the strength of our dollar, It costs $100 after tax to buy a new video game these days. And when you're dropping that type of cash on a product, you definitely want to feel like you're getting your money's worth. Starfield is Bethesda's biggest launch to date. It's already got over 6 million concurrent players. Now, a lot of that can probably be attributed to Game Pass, but either way, how can you argue with those results? You got 6 million people playing your games, you got multiple 9 out of 10 and 10 out of 10 scores. Clearly, the market is sending a response that says, hey, you're doing the right thing with making this game with all of this content in it. But for me personally, there were so many times while I've been playing Starfield where I thought, I think this could be, my game of the year. But then when you see all these little things begin to add up, like the fact that there's no map in the game, the fact that the UI is so cumbersome, the fact that there is a lot of repetitiveness with the side missions and with exploring the planets. These are things that I think when you begin to stack them up, they take off too many points to potentially make this my game of the year. I would still recommend that you check out Starfield if you have Game Pass. I mean, there's really no reason not to if it's a free game. But just don't go into this game expecting to see Bethesda reinventing the wheel in any way. It's the exact same formula as always, as it's always been. I think that's probably enough rambling for me today on this topic. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.